are coming to drop off about 70 sandwiches or hot dogs to the homeless for our Vertical, which is a outreach program here in downtown Newark. Is there anything we could be praying for you guys about?
Protection and maybe some more volunteers and just softened hearts.
Is there anything that we can supply more of, or is once a month still good for you guys? And is there anything else you guys need from us, food-wise, supply-wise?
Let me talk to my Monday group and maybe if you could do another day, like sandwiches or something like that.
Yep, we'll do it. You just let me know. We
it.
appreciate you guys. Thank you for what you're doing. Newark has so much, like drugs, obviously homeless. There's so much happening in Newark. Denison is a big culprit of a lot of drug and alcohol abuse. We have just seen so much over, decades. We've seen Granville do so many things that are harmful for many people. They didn't care, but now all of a sudden they care about people's health, or they care about what your business is doing. There's just so many things that are so frustrating that I see. And I think that's one of the things Jake and I are just tired of, is that it's been going on for so long, and then COVID hit, and the town decided that they wanted to come after Jake and I for not following the dots on the floors and the masking up.
We brought them back one day, and I don't know, Josiah was just like, he was running up. He's always been like really athletic with Elijah. Him and Elijah are like best friends. And he was running up the hill and he was wheezing. And I'm like, buddy, why are you wheezing? And I knew it was because Matt and Charlene smoke, and he had gone from being in a healthy environment to now back into the smoke-filled environment.
Yeah.
And not picking on people who smoke. I used to be a smoker, so that's not, I'm just saying, like, there's things that you see, and when you have a child in a healthy environment and then they go back into a very unhealthy environment, it's really hard just to see that. It's hard to just watch it. And I, again, thinking I'm the cause of it, right? Like, Josiah now is becoming unhealthy because I made a decision so that his mom would be happy. And I remember looking at Josiah, and I remember saying to him, I'm not your mom. He was calling me mom because that's what he knew. And I said, Josiah, I'm not your mom. You're not allowed to call me that anymore. And he was right here, and he just stomped his foot, and he said, you've been my mommy longer. Like, yelling at me. And I thought, you're right, I have been. And I couldn't just turn off being a mom to them. Like, I couldn't just, and they couldn't turn it off for us being mom and dad. And so everything that I had worked for, keeping Josiah and Christiana protected and doing everything to protect them, I had literally just caused all of that to unravel because we made a decision to send them back into hell.
Yeah.
All in the name of protecting the biological mom and Matt, because that's what we do as a society, right? We look at the adult, they're the victim, they're the ones we need to give them more because it'll all be better. No, it doesn't work that way. We have got to stop looking at adults and acting like adults need to get better, which they do. But Josiah and Christiana were the ones that needed Jake and I to just look at Matt and Charlena and say, I don't care. We'll fight you until the end for these two. Not because we have to be mom and dad to them, but because we will protect them from this craziness that you keep putting them in.
It was coming back to where we were going to have to get them into school. Because we homeschooled, now they'd have to re-enroll in a public school somewhere. And so we were communicating daily, me and Matt, about how we were going to get them into school. So they were looking at school districts. And I was talking to him one day, and he's like, well, we're thinking about Heath or West Muskingum or something. And I'm like, thinking in my head when he's talking, you can't pick school districts. It's like where you live normally, right? It's by your address. And I'm like, well, how would you do Heath? And he's like, well, my address is Heath or Muskingum. And I'm like, this, doesn't add up. And I kind of felt like he was lying to me about something. I had gotten word from my mom that Josiah and Christiana were living at TJ's house with Charlena. TJ is Charlena's boyfriend. And from what I knew about TJ was he was not a good guy. He's got multiple kids with multiple different moms. And he's also got an abusive situation in his past. Like if you look at his record, he's not the kind of guy you want, hanging around little girls and little boys. He needs some serious help himself.
We were under the impression that Christiana and Josiah were going to be with Matt and Charlena, that they were going to be raising them.
And so when my mom said TJ's house, I immediately called our attorney and said, we need to get the kids back now. We need to get them back today. Because who's going to go to court and be like, I'm legal guardians, I don't know where my kids are. That's going to end badly for us. We have to, like when you're a legal guardian, you kind of have to keep track of those kids you are legal guardians of. And so we had every right to do that. And we did have every right to do it. And the court worked. The court couldn't stop it. Their attorney couldn't stop it. We have these rights over these two children. The court gave us these rights. We want them back because what they're doing is not good. And they respected all that. The court did. The attorneys did. Matt and Charlena and TJ were pretty upset about it, but they couldn't stop it. And it was what needed to be done.
We knew they needed to be with us. And that is where they were going to be protected, where they were going to be able to grow up in our home, in a safe home, and be able to be the best that they can be in this world outside of the foster care system, outside of drugs, outside of alcohol, outside of chaos. We had to show why TJ was unfit, because TJ was portrayed as he's the boyfriend and he's doing great. He has a job. He's going through rehab. He's going through his classes, getting his certificate. We had received the information that he did have a dependency case against him, which a dependency case in the state of Ohio, that is where, the state is coming in and taking your children because you are neglecting them. We're not talking just about like a CPS case or someone's calling, like you are not feeding them, you're not taking care of them. And he had been found, he was charged with beating his ex-girlfriend while one of the children were in the car going down the road. This information about TJ was vital for our case because we had to prove that this just wasn't another boyfriend. This wasn't just someone that she was moving on with life and doing better with and things were getting better. This was like the same story of what she's gone through before. Right. Her boyfriends are trouble.
I didn't really know much of what was going on there. Like I would get occasional updates, and then I was actually at Lake Hudson with the older kids. She gave me the day, was like, hey, can you just take them to the lake? So we were all swimming and having a good time, and they drove up and they were like, hey, can we talk to you? And they pulled me aside and they were like, we're going to pick up Christiana and Josiah right now and we want you to come with us. So I was like, okay, let's go. They were like, we realize it's not safe and we need to go get them immediately. So soaking wet, I just hopped in the car and we went. And that was one of the most traumatic things I've ever witnessed. Matt and Charlene were very angry. They were yelling, they were getting in Jake's face, and Jake and Sabrina held themselves with such dignity. They just said, we have guardianship of these children, we're taking them back. They put the kids in the car. The kids are obviously crying because they're watching this whole ordeal. And so I'm in the back seat with them and I'm just holding them and like, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay. And we pulled out and they stopped a couple miles down the road and they both got out and got Christiana and Josiah out, and they were just hugging them and telling them like, you're safe, it's gonna be okay.
So they came back and then we had to go to court, like pretty immediately. We were still working. We were still, homeschooling the children. We were still walking through life. And then we were preparing for this battle to go in and fight for Josiah and Christiana. Because once you do something like that, you can file an ex parte order, which just means, hey, we got to get in front of the judge because the biological mom wants to see the children right now. And that's another thing that happens in the court system, is that there are these laws that allow the biological mom, regardless of her state of mind, regardless if she hasn't been taking care of her children, if she hasn't been paying child support, if she's on drugs, regardless of what she's doing, she can just go in and file this ex parte order, and they have to do it. They have to allow her to come in and say her side of the story to see if she can have more time with her children. And so we started walking through Rule 19. And they wanted us to do mediation. They said, instead of coming before the judge, why don't you guys go to a mediator first?
And try to cut a deal.
Yes, a mediator is all about, instead of going to the magistrate or the judge, we're going to put you in front of someone else who can talk to both sides without any biased opinion and see what's in the best interest of the children. It's never in the best interest of the children, never. Because if it was in the best interest of the children, then they would be asking the children and they would be looking at how the children are living and what's going on in their life, and that's not the case. We also had to have a guardian ad litem. The guardian ad litem is supposed to be the advocate, the voice for Josiah and Christiana, and they're the ones that are going to give the ruling on what happens with the shared parenting. And so we get into court, and then the guardian ad litem got up to speak.
He comes in and goes, look, here's the deal. This is the best we can do. I think we should agree to this. This is Rule 19. This is shared parenting. You'll keep custody. They're going to get every Wednesday and every other weekend.
And he was the last one to talk. And he said, I do believe that Charlena should have visitations. They're bonded. I do believe Matt should have visitation with the kids because they're bonded. He thought that he had spent enough time with Josiah and Christiana, which he hadn't. And immediately I was very angry again. And I said, I'm not signing this. I am not doing this. There's no way I am allowing her or Josiah and Christiana to stay the night with them. There's no way I'm doing this. You're talking every week. Have you ever done anything every week we have to take Josiah and Christiana for 2 hours, and then every other weekend. And you have to remember now, we're not on good terms with Matt and Charlena. Like, they literally hate us. We're very frustrated with them. I wouldn't say we hate them, but it is not a good situation. And now you're asking us to jointly be parenting with them, and they know nothing about Josiah and Christiana. They have not spent hardly any time with them. Our lifestyles are extreme opposites.
Mm-hmm. We kept as the legal guardian. The magistrate agreed with us that it made sense that we demanded the kids back. He did give Charlena and Matt visitation 2 hours on a Wednesday and every other weekend. So that was devastating, really, for us to get that order or that decision, because
it didn't feel like a
done.
Win. And so we left the courtroom not feeling victory. We didn't feel like it was a success. We didn't feel like we had won.
And we started visitations. Bizarre, huh? Hey guys, how's it going? Good. Come on. Oh wow, you guys smell like cologne. What'd you do? Come on. I didn't realize you all were coming. Come on.
Back to being here?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Herbert's car is over there.
Yeah, our family. Our family.
My kids.
No, they're not yours.
Doing?
What's wrong with you, Jake?
You just slammed the door as I was walking through it.
Whatever. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Quick. Get in
You
the
don't
car.
have to be quick.
Get in the car.
As the world was shutting down again and everyone was not sure what was happening, people were hanging on to Governor DeWine's daily talks, right? And so we have knuckleheads, we have Jakes, and then all of a sudden they started talking about essential businesses. And you're like, well, are you essential or are you not essential? And what do we do with Josiah and Christiana? I thought it was our ticket to be done. I'm like, this is great. If this is if this is as deadly as they say it is, Josiah and Christiana don't have to go anywhere, right? So someone had asked Governor DeWine in one of the press conferences, what do parents do that are doing shared parenting? And so I was hanging on the edge of my seat like he's gonna say, don't go, right? No, he says, well, you just do whatever's in the best interest of the children. And I remember thinking, what does he mean by that? Does he not understand that most people who are doing shared parenting are divorced and they hate each other? Do you think either side is going to do what's in the best interest of the child? They're not doing what's in the best interest of the child.
So the world's worst pandemic of all time, we closed the whole world down. We're still doing shared parenting. Like, wouldn't you think if this was legit, we would need to stay in our own bubble, right?
We were bound by law to take Josiah and Christiana. And that's when I knew that this whole thing that was happening with the world there was something more to it. That it was not a deadly pandemic. It was not about health and safety. Because if it was about health and safety, we would be protecting our children. And in our case, we would be able to protect Josiah and Christiana. And once again, we couldn't. Our frustration was building because we had to continue to take Josiah and Christiana every Wednesday and every other weekend to these visits. And we knew that Charlena her behavior was weird. It was bizarre. I actually didn't go to the visits to drop the kids off for the longest time. He went by himself to do that because there was so much frustration around just the drop off and the pickup. So he knew that there was some things going on with Charlena that we had to prove, which was the drug activity.
So we hired a private investigator. He uncovered that Charlena was not only a user, she had a good little side business of delivering drugs. She was in the business of taking drugs from multiple different houses to other people's houses. She was like the driver.
We knew what was happening, and then we would have to send Josiah and Christiana.
Applewood was extremely busy with what appeared to be drug activity, specifically the individual that I was watching, the location that she was going to. It was a constant flow of people going in and out of that residence. Some would be there for less than 60 seconds. Some would be there for 20 minutes or so. The really concerning part is it's not just limited to the adults, but the adults are so incapable of making good decisions that they are knowingly and willingly bringing their children into those types of situations, to the point that in the middle of the night, they're taking their children down to a local gas station to meet God only knows who and do a drug deal behind the building with their children present. If that's not a red flag, if that's not an issue to somebody, I'm not sure what else to say in that regards.
Eventually we were able to file a affidavit with the court from our investigator to request a drug test. So we requested that Charlena would have to take a drug test within 3 days of this filing.
So she gets the results, and we got the results, and they were obviously positive. It tested positive for meth. But then I also got really angry again because she wasn't arrested. So you can walk out of Ohio Consortium with a positive drug test, and because of doctor-patient privilege, even if you test positive for meth, you do not get arrested for that. It's totally backwards to me. We thought we were going into a season where we were done with this. Charlena can go and get herself healthy, do what she needs to do. We can move on with Josiah and Christiana. We're good. I'm telling you, every time we turned around, there was something else that was filed. There was some other excuse for why the kids still had to go. And so now Charlena tested positive. The magistrate said, absolutely, you're not allowed to see the children. But Matt was still on the docket.
Didn't want to park out front?
There wasn't no place to park.
Oh, really? Really? Don't
Don't
touch her.
Aren't we supposed to meet at the
Don't
police
touch
station?
her like that.
Aren't we supposed to meet at the police station?
Hey,
Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
you better,
Am
you've
I
got
wrong?
1 minute.
Am I wrong?
You got 1 minute. Go ahead and don't grab her like that ever again. Don't touch her.
So we still had our September court date coming up, and we were feeling pretty confident about it because we had the
'Cause we
testimony of Ben.
Yeah.
Charlena was no longer seeing the kids. Matt is not a biological related person to Josiah and Christiana. We felt like it would go really well. We really were confident that this was going to be the end of the visitations, not adoption, because that's not something that we could do right now. We just knew that we wanted the visitations to be done. And the first day was hell.
Yeah. It's
They
rough.
got to speak first. and they started bringing all of their character witnesses. I think the one that stood out to me was Richard Kozlowski, and he was an attorney. So here again, you have another attorney in the group who knows about the positive drug test, but still is gonna come and be a character witness for Matt and Charlena, saying that they're good people.
But his testimony actually is what sealed the deal on a couple
Contempt
contempt
orders.
charges we had filed. At this point, when we're doing visits, the way Rich is involved, Rich Kozlowski, is that Matt would take the kids to Rich's house and let them swim in his swimming pool. During the pandemic, when the judge's order said you can't have the kids around anybody except the parties, he gets up there, and one of the points we were trying to make is that on one of the visits, the kids changed in Rich's garage. They didn't change in a bathroom. They put their bathing suits on in his garage.
So you have Matt and Charlena changing in front of each other with Josiah and Christiana.
Changing in this stranger's
extremely
garage.
Inappropriate.
So Rich gets up there and goes, well, my garage is nicer than most people's houses. So, you know, it's a really nice garage.
And then they asked Jake to come up and speak.
And they asked me about Rich Kozlowski, you know, and the changing in the garage. And I was like, do you know how you get changed? Do you know how you put on a bathing suit? That means my kids were at a visit and they were naked in this man's garage. I mean,
Yes.
do you understand?
Yes.
It's not that he has a nice garage. It's that that's inappropriate,
It's
right? You at least go
extremely
into the
inappropriate.
bathroom. This guy could be a freaking weirdo, have his cameras everywhere, right?
Yeah.
I don't know Rich. So our attorney asked him a few things and he admits that the kids were over and that they had been around each other and it's basically a done deal.
So we went to bed that night. We got up not feeling the greatest, but we got up the next morning to go to court again, and it was finally our time to testify. And so when Ben came in and sat up there, and all he had to do, he had his computer, his laptop, he just read for
He's like, at this date, at this time, we were here.
the magistrate just
53
let him
South
read
William
all of
Street.
his evidence.
Then I went here. Then she took this and dropped here. And for probably 40 minutes, just line by line of everything Charlena had done. And so not only is he telling the truth, he's also exposing all the lies from the day before.
So everything was really great. Ben had testified, Jake had testified, and then the guardian ad litem gets up and speaks.
And the guardian ad litem
Had
it's-
already filed a report of what he thought should happen
yeah.
with the kids, and it was a terrible report.
His suggestion to the court was that we get the kids 4 days a week, they get them 3 days a week, we pay for everything, and it's basically 50-50 scenario.
And the magistrate from the bench said to Charlena, everybody knows what you're doing. We know exactly what's going on here. And you are gonna hurt yourself or hurt someone else. You're gonna find yourself in jail or worse. And so he literally just gave her a reprimand from the bench. And so we all get up and leave. And our attorney said that never happens. The magistrate does not say anything from the bench normally, but he just gave her a reprimand.
These were two kids that were in a bad situation. And as far as I know, there was no obligation that they had to these children. But this was a situation that they took on somebody else's problem for the sake of the children. Anybody that would take on knowingly a problem that they don't have to says something about their character to me. I personally was super encouraged by the judge recognizing this issue for being what it was.
This has divided us with a lot of our friends because a lot of stories have been told out there about the whole situation. The word is that they stole the kids.
You stole their kids. You
Yeah.
need to give them back. You stole them. There's no stealing. I mean, Jake and Sabrina's got plenty of love for a lot of kids.
We've lived throughout Jake and Sabrina's marriage for 20 years and watched the growth and the change and the amazing things that have been happening.
And there's no difference from number 1 to number 5. And that's the way Grandma and Grandpa are. The hard lesson we have learned from the pandemic is like the country song by Tracy Lawrence. You find out who your friends are. We've really learned that.
That was September. and you have to wait. You're waiting on the order. You have to wait for the magistrate to go through all of the information. And so life went on. Knuckleheads went on. The pandemic went on.
Visits still go on.
With not with Charlene, but just with Matt. December 5th, we got the ruling, and that the ruling was literally everything we had asked for. The magistrate had heard us very loud and clear. He was very adamant that the kids had been bonded with us, that they knew this was their home, that calling us mom and dad was exactly the truth. We were mom and dad to Josiah and Christiana, and everything that we were praying for and asking for.
Right.
And then some.
Well, and remember, this whole thing started because Matt and Charlena filed to sue us for $7,000 and take the kids back. That's what this whole thing started. So the ruling was, we keep the kids, they pay the contempt filings, Charlena has to pay child support, and not only child support from that day forward, it was a year back too.
Backdated.
So they were gonna go back a whole year. And it was like they came in one way and left so many different ways with their tail between their legs.
We were celebrating. We went to Florida. We
Yeah.
took the kids for a trip. We just said, we're out of here because we
Yeah.
had not been on vacation with our family.
Because you can't really take a vacation when you're every Wednesday
Every
hanging
Wednesday.
out for visits for 2 hours and every other weekend.
The kids were excited. We were excited. We literally were able to go and be
Yeah.
mom and dad. The kids
Yeah.
were so excited. We were so excited to have this completed. And I remember Josiah and Christiana when we told them, it's done. You don't have to do any more. It's done. And a sigh of relief
Yeah.
just came over them. A lot of times people think with kids in general, but I'll just say with Josiah and Christiana, that they want to be with Matt and that they want to be with Charlena. And they think we're awful because we say they don't want to be with them. But Christiana and Josiah have been with us for 5 years. We're going into our 6th year with them.
Right.
And so you can't take away what a mom and a dad is giving to them in that time
Yeah.
and force even the biological mom and this person, Matt, onto them. And in the course of the 5 years of Jake and I setting this foundation of what a mom and a dad look like, what a family looks like, that's what they remember.
Yeah.
That's what they're growing up in, and that's what they're going to continue to grow up in.
And it's not only about them, it's about future generations. Like, we're breaking off this generational problem of abuse and, drugs, alcohol, the lifestyle. We're breaking that off. So it's not just Josiah and Christiana. Imagine how many kids we affect for future generations just from those two.
I just love the Warner family. I think they're awesome people. They do the things that you and I might not do. They step into things that are uncomfortable and they take them on, and they bring change that no one else could foresee could happen because they just believe it will. It's just amazing to see what they came from and how they were frightened little children. They looked like scared puppies when they came. And the Warners have taught them, not just Jake and Sabrina, but their children, their older children, we call them the bigs and the littles. They have taught those kids that this is a safe place. You're always going to be safe. You're going to be taken care of, because now they can be who they are, who they were meant to be.
Josiah and Christiana, has been a true pleasure to get to be a part of your existence. And you growing up, it's been so fun to watch you lose your teeth and get your teeth and to teach you to swim, and to watch every moment you guys getting stronger in your spirit and stronger in your ability to deal with what life has thrown at you, because you've dealt with a lot more than most people would have to deal with. So I cherish you both, and Christiana, you are a light, and Josiah, you are fierce.
It's been a rough road, but it goes back to what Charlena asked you to do. She said,
Yeah.
teach my son
How to be a man.
how to be a man.
Yeah.
And
And I
that's
mean,
what
I
you're
took
doing.
that job seriously. I take my job seriously with all my kids. I've never looked at Josiah and Christiana as like, oh, they're like, my extra kids or whatever. They're all our kids.
All our kids.
We treat them the same from day one.
Mhm.
It's really like they're made for our family anyway. I mean, you just see how we interact, see how we do things. It's always been that way. And we knew it pretty much from the first probably month, really, because we really felt like they were meant for our family and they were meant to be our kids. Doesn't matter that they're not our blood, genetically, they're our kids. I mean, they are. And they call us mom and dad. So we're up for the job.
You okay?
You hit the back of your head.
All right, let's go. I'm gonna walk it off.
Set. Go. Stop. All right, ready? On your mark. Go.
Yeah, this is a good picture of Joe's, how much he loves me right here. How much do you love your mom and dad?
So much. Like this much. That much? Like a billion views? I love to the heaven and back, to California and back, to Tennessee and back. I love you so much. And thank you for taking care of me.
So we just want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Obviously, it's been a roller coaster of time for Jake and I and our family, but we are so thankful for Josiah and Christiana to be in our family, number one. But we also want to encourage you as the viewer. We have seen a lot over the last 6 years, and in our opinion and what we've seen and what we're doing right now for our community, the children are the ones that really need to see you. They don't just need your money. They don't just need you to pray for them. Prayer is amazing, but they actually need to see you. Jake and I once a week are now going to a apartment complex locally to us, and we hand out lunches to these children. And we've been doing this for the past 2 years because we saw not just a need, but we also wanted to make a difference in their life.
Through our investigator, when we were surveilling Charlena during our case here, they discovered at Applewood in Newark what a mess it really is. There's 50 Applewoods in Licking County. So when you talk about 50 to 75 kids growing up in Applewood, and there's 50 to 75 of these just in Licking County, you're talking 2,500 to 3,500, maybe 4,000 kids growing up that don't know anything better than free handouts from the government, low income,
Dysfunction. Drugs,
everything given to them,
alcohol.
drugs, alcohol, boyfriends, different boyfriend, no steady family. These kids are going to grow up. They're going to have lots of other kids themselves. It's a big problem if we don't do something now.
So if you think about this, Governor DeWine shut down the schools. If you guys, we want you to remember what happened in 2020. He shut down the schools, which means right now we have 6th graders who were in 3rd grade when the shutdowns happened, and they don't know how to read. This is what we're living in right now, and we have to get out in the community. There's no longer just hoping and wishing that things get better. You have to get involved locally at the local level, and if you're not sure where to get started, we do want you to reach out to us. But the biggest thing that we want you to do is get started. We want to thank you guys again for watching. Stay tuned. We've got more coming out, and we're excited to continue to show you guys what we're doing so that you can be encouraged to get involved. Our heart is that you would take action in your own community. We cannot do this by ourselves. So we want to encourage you to get involved.